clubs.
Ramirez with a drive to deep right, away back, goal!
Gohei gets a bomb out there by the Rocks. And boy, oh boy, this third inning is now showtime.
It is a Judgian blast. All rise. Here comes the judge.
Join us as we take you inside the baseball universe, from humidors to spin rates to game-changing moments. We have you covered. Spend your afternoon with us next from the town, only on A's Cast Live. Here's Chris Townsend.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to A's Cast Live as we have a great show for you on a Monday. As you see there on the screen, single game tickets on sale now. The spring training games are on sale, and it is getting closer and closer for us going down to Arizona. Looking at the calendar, today's the 6th? Literally in 2 weeks, we'll be hopping on a Southwest flight, and we're going to be heading to Arizona, Mesa, Hohokam, to give you everything Oakland Athletics. And we're going to go back to the old school way of doing it, because for some reason we got sidetracked and it's not the right way. We're going to go back to the right way. We're going to go there before the game start, and we are going to sit down with all the major players, and you're going to have it on audio on our streaming. You're going to have video, whether it's Twitter, whether it's YouTube, however you're consuming this. And you're going to get to see the players, hear the players, in-depth one-on-one interviews from spring training. Because if there was ever a year to get to know the A's and really the future of the A's, this is really a good year. And I thought about that because before I came on today, I went on with the Seattle Mariners podcast. So the Mariners are doing their look around the American League West right now. And so they called me up, hey, can you do A's? Of course. So I went on with them, and we actually had a long conversation. And I want to get into it because it kind of tells you about the national perspective of where we are and just how either people are just not informed or they just literally just don't know. But going through that, that interview, they were asked, hey, who should we be looking forward to? Hey, who are the young players that are coming up? How are the A's going to get back? And it's just, that's where we are. So I think it's important that we get into a dugout or a meeting room and we sit there and we talk with the players, and you get to know the players. We get to know the players. The guys that are going to be in charge of turning this thing around and changing the Oakland Athletics. Who are they? What makes them tick? We're going to have that for you from Mesa, Arizona. When do we fly out, Cody? Is it the 21st?
21st, like almost 3 in the afternoon, and then we'll start doing stuff on Wednesday the 22nd all the way through the 24th. That's a Friday, and then we come home, and our first game's Saturday the 25th.
How crazy is that? I mean, literally 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, just about 2 weeks, we will be in Arizona and getting you ready for spring training. And as Cody just said, on the 25th, A's baseball is going to start. I got to tell you, it was a great weekend, and I know they finished up this morning out of Pebble Beach. Saw some A's fans out there. It was good to see you. What a great event. Just absolutely incredible being on the Monterey Peninsula and out at Pebble, just one of the most beautiful places in the world. As they say, it's the greatest meeting of land and sea on the planet, and it truly is incredible. And not only am I starting the show with that today, I'm doing it for a reason. First, let's get to you. We're going to have coming up here, we are going to have Martín Gallegos, MLB.com, covers the A's at 1:30, and then Anthony Castrovince at 2 o'clock from MLB.com to talk about a lot of different things going on in Major League Baseball. But the thing that, you know what I'll be interested in, Anthony, is let's see what he says about the 40-40. What's going to be easier this year? Is it going to be the dingers Or is it going to be the stolen bases? Still kind of it's we don't know how the changing of the pickoff rules and the bigger bags and no shifting, and we don't know how the running game is going to change in baseball. Change back to. Are we going to get back to guys with 40 stolen bases? There's a bunch of guys with 40 stolen bases, or a bunch of guys with even 30. Will we have some leaders in the clubhouse that are 80 and above? Can you imagine that? Multiple guys with 80 plus stolen bases in a season? That's going to be like a shocker to the system. So we got a lot to get into with Anthony Castrovince from MLB.com at 2:00. So yesterday morning, what time did you get up yesterday, Cody? Was I working while you were sleeping on a Sunday morning?
Yeah, I think I was, how can I say, I had one too many IPAs on Saturday, so I slept in a little bit till, 10 or 11 yesterday.
Well, what do you mean one too many? You went out and you enjoyed yourself. You're a responsible adult. What were you doing?
Oh, no, I was drinking at home. My wife and I drank at home that day, so I didn't even go anywhere. That's the worst part.
You were even more responsible.
Yeah. When I say one too many, I don't know. There was a 6-pack of IPAs, and I may have drank a little bit earlier in the day. But yeah, I was at home, but I slept in. So yeah, I was asleep whenever you were doing the work you were doing.
I want to show everybody my new favorite thing that I got for Christmas. I don't know. Have I shown this yet? The A's Yeti?
Yes. I think we show that one or the green one you have as well, which is.
Oh, yeah, the green one. But this isn't a Yeti. This to me is more for decoration. I love this one for decoration because it comes off so good.
It's a great color.
I don't even know who makes this one. I wanted the A's. The A's. Can you see the A's in the logo?
I do. Yes.
It's sick. This A's Yeti is amazing. But as Cody was sleeping hungover, I got up early to go down to Pebble Beach. And if you want a fantastic baseball show, every Sunday morning, they have a show called The Front Office. And it's Jim Duquette with Jim Bowden. And 2 ex-GMs. Obviously, Jim has his show, The Power Alley, Monday through Friday with our buddy Mike Farron, who we're taking to dinner. Is that set yet for our first night down there in the Valley of the Sun?
I touched base with him last week. He seems like he's into it, but he said he'll believe it. He'll believe it when he sees it.
Yeah, he'll believe it when the bill shows up and his arms. He gets alligator arms, and I'm paying for it. That's when he will believe it.
He forgot his wallet as the excuse.
Yeah, where? Well, I don't. One of those acts, but that's fine. He's a good friend, and we promised him dinner. So they were breaking down the NL Central on their show on Sunday morning. It's a fantastic show. They actually take callers too, and I'm going to get to that in a second. So basically, the NL Central, it's the Cardinals, and then nobody else, because I don't think there's a belief. I don't think there's a belief that the Brewers are going to make a run at this thing. Like at some point, the Brewers are going to sell off some pieces, especially pitching. Cubs aren't there. How the Pirates going to? Do I look at the Pirates making a run at this thing?
The over-under win total for them I saw over the weekend was 65, so I don't think they're going to make a run for the Central this year.
So it's, listening to them break it down, I'm like, yeah, it's Cardinals or bust. Okay. And they had a caller call in and randomly ask about the A's situation. And it made me realize how just uninformed the national media is. And then I got it again today talking with our friends up in Seattle. They're just asking, what's going on? Jim Bowden basically said on a national show, the MLB channel on Sirius XM, this is the MLB channel, basically said that the Rays stadium deal is done. I mean, I'm driving down to Pebble Beach. I'm like, what? What is he saying? Oh, yeah, they had a press conference. It's done. They're getting this thing done. And then, of course, the whole just trashing of everything going on in Oakland. It was unbelievable. In Vegas, and it was like they literally, Cody, think because there was a press conference. And I know we talked about this last week, but I couldn't believe I was hearing this on a national show. They believe because Tampa had a press conference, has drawings, and a mayor says, I like the idea, that it's done. Tampa's saved. They literally said that. That's what national media is out there spewing to people. That Tampa Bay, well, actually, St. Petersburg, the city of St. Petersburg, their mayor and the Rays had a press conference. That means their stadium deal is done.
Doesn't sit well with me because of, well, we're around it. And we heard the Rays president, Brian All, talk about, how they're excited. I mean, do we have to play the audio again? I still have it of how excited the Rays president is, but they're not even close to voting on it.
Yeah, I want you to play this because this is something that people need to understand. This is the one where he says they're going to meet with the mayor, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so play that.
Here we go.
I'm really looking forward to, for the first time since the RFP was issued, being able to sit down with the mayor and talk about how he wants this to go forward, where we're going to go, how we're going to get there, and in what order. Because there's arguments to be made for any number of steps along the way. We know we need a financing plan for the ballpark. We know we need a city council approval of a development agreement. We know we're going to need some county support. And so each of those steps can be taken in order. And I think we work on them all at the same time. But what I think you saw today was overwhelming community support for a really great vision for this city and this baseball club. And that's exciting.
Vision, community support, and a first meeting with the mayor on how we're going to do it. And everybody's taking that as it's a done deal. Oh, wow. I mean, oh, wow.
That's, by the way, that's Rays president Brian Auld. If anyone just caught that in the middle of it, Brian Auld is the president of the Tampa Bay Rays.
We can't wait. I mean, we don't have a plan. We don't have financing. We actually don't have anything, but we're going to meet with the mayor for the first time. And the mayor is going to tell us the steps and how we're going to go about it. It's a done deal. If you just listen to that and you've been following everything we've been doing and everything everybody's been trying to do, oh my God. How just, I don't know how it gets like this. I really don't. I really don't know how it's just clueless. There's just cluelessness everywhere you look. I mean, obviously it's very complicated and you'd really need to have your ear to the ground to be following everything. But the fact that the national media thinks that you could have a press conference and everything's good. I mean, that would basically be like Shang Tao, the new mayor of Oakland, and Dave Cavill having a press conference. And Mayor Tao comes out and says, yeah, we want to do this. And Dave Cavill goes, yeah, we want to do this. And now the national media goes, we're saved in Oakland. We're saved. It's all done. We're good. We're good. They're going to get it done. They're just going to get it done. Wow. It was just a shocker to hear national guys supposedly in the know truly have zero idea. And as I tried to sum up all the different things that have been happening from I tried to sum it up real quick on the Mariners podcast today. From Fremont to San Jose. First of all, before any of that happened, I talked about the Giants trying to move to San Jose. That's why the territorial rights thing happened, because normally in a two-team market like New York, Chicago, LA, both teams, you have equal territorial rights. You can move wherever you want inside the territory. But the A's gave that up to the Giants because the Giants were trying to move to San Jose. Giants had not one but two votes that did not pass in San Jose to bring them down there. They were eventually going to move to St. Petersburg, Florida. and they would be the St. Pete Giants. But Peter McGowan, Safeway, and their group saved them, kept them in San Francisco, and the rest is history. And then they didn't want to give back the territorial rights because they said, hey, listen, we had to get the funding and pay for our own ballpark. And one of the reasons why we were able to do that is because San Jose and Silicon Valley is our territory. That's one of the reasons why we were able to get the financing, not just because we're San Francisco. All of a sudden, San Francisco needs San Jose when San Francisco never wants anything to do with San Jose. But when it came to the Giants, boy, do we need San Jose. So they weren't giving up the territorial rights. The rest is history. So there's this long history. So I said, in the end, what's happening in Vegas, what's happening in Oakland, it's complicated. But if it's complicated here, the Rays are they're about to run a race. They're not even at the starting line. They're stretching. They're hydrating. They're having orange peels. Maybe a little lemon. And whatever people do to run races, I'm not really educated on that. I did a 5K once. It was a disaster. We'll never do it. You ever done a 5K, Cody?
No, I haven't had the urge to want to run that many miles. I walk a good amount of miles per day, but no, never done a 5K. Don't plan on doing a 5K.
Oh, actually, I've done 2 5Ks.
Were they for charity or did you just do it for fun?
One was in my neighborhood in Willow Glen here in San Jose. They do one every single year. Well, they used to do one every single year. I don't know if it's back or not. For all the local businesses. And then my kids were in this running program for girls. That's a nationwide program. And I ran that one in Los Gatos. And it was after that one that I really had to come to grips with my age and my ability not to run long distances anymore.
You had a good reason for doing them. So
it's at some point you need to realize that this really hurts really bad. And it's having a lasting effect on me. And I don't want to train. And a 5K is nothing. I can't even imagine these people that do marathons. It's insane. But yeah, I realized in the last 5K that my running days are behind me. I have better things to do with my life than to run on hard asphalt and concrete for 5.3 or whatever it is miles. It's not good for you. And those days are officially over. But if we're looking at a race, for any of you who've run a half marathon or marathon, there comes to a point where I've heard this. I can't say I've ever experienced it. But I hear there comes a point where your body doesn't want to run anymore. But you've done all this training, you've done all this work to get to the finish line. But your body's telling you no, your mind's saying yes. And you're going to finish this race because this is what you trained for. This is your goal. That's where the A's are. The A's are deep into this marathon. And they've been running for hours. And it's hard and it hurts. Nothing feels good. It's miserable. I can't even, Cody, can you even imagine how miserable it must be when you're on mile 16 or 17 of a marathon?
I can't imagine what it's like running the Boston Marathon, or what are some of the other big ones they do?
Anyone, New York Marathon, Boston. We have marathons here. There's marathons all over the place.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what that'd be like. Even take it one step further. Imagine what they do for the Tour de France with cycling. I can imagine, but no. My body aches after thinking about mile 4 or 5. Imagine being on 6.
I can't even imagine it. So that's where we are. We're in that uncomfortable spot. We're in that uncomfortable spot that our body hurts. This has been a long time. It's been a lot of training. Knees hurt, ankles hurt, back hurts. This is miserable, but I know what the goal is, and we're going to finish the race. Tampa's 18 miles back, stretching out. The gun hasn't even gone off. I mean, they haven't even started the race. They've got their cute little running shirt on. They've got their running shorts. They got their bottles of water. They're with their friends. Isn't this great? We've been waiting for this for so long. And they're stretching out. They're just starting to gather people at the front. The fast people will go off first. You got all the people in the back who are like, excited. They've waited. That's where they are. They haven't even started the race. This will probably be the last time I bring this up on the show anytime soon, unless there is some breaking news. Because I don't want to talk about this because there is no news to break. But I just want to give people an idea that, what means so much to us is being covered very unprofessionally outside of us. It just is. There's things that have been written, there's things that have been said that are just reckless, uninformed, and anything like that gets reported all of a sudden gets magnified, and then all of a sudden it gets thrown back at us, and it upsets us, even though we know it's crap. And I feel bad. I feel bad for you, the fans, because obviously this means a lot to all of us. This is our livelihood, for God's sakes. And for you as fans, this is your love. So every detail matters to us. Every little thing matters to us. And so when someone's driving around on Sunday morning and you're listening to a show that's well-renowned, the front office, Cody, back me on this, on Sunday mornings, everybody in our industry is listening to this show.
Yeah, because you got, as you mentioned, you got two former Major League Baseball executives, general managers, Bowden, multiple teams, Jim Duquette with the Mets. I mean, we've had him on several times. Bowden, he's a little more slippery to get on the program, but these guys, there's another, doesn't Steve Phillips sometimes join them too when he does it? So
yeah.
So
he's former Mets.
You got
Bowden actually did Duquette also did the Orioles.
Was he there? I know his cousin was there, Dan. So, yeah. So, I mean, these guys have been around the league for a while. It's not like these are just two guys that are filling in on a Sunday to talk baseball. I mean, these are two guys that are really in the know, guys that break down things. I mean, Bowden breaks down trades and farm system rankings and prospects. And, I mean, the guy's been a GM for the Reds and the Nationals. So, he knows what he's talking about. But, yeah, it seems kind of reckless after you told me about that earlier. And I've listened to that show, I think, once or twice because, I'm not up that early on Sunday sometimes to listen. But I am subscribed to Sirius. I told Farron that I subscribe to it. But yeah, that's just
he should be buying us dinner. We're keeping him employed. Yeah, Jim Duquette was a general manager of the Mets, and then was the vice president of baseball operations for the Orioles, and he's been with a bunch of different teams. All these guys have been with a ton of teams. But yeah, I mean they're kind of They on Sunday mornings, they had the Cardinals GM on Sunday. I mean, you'll hear all the GMs stop by there, all their buddies. So yeah, when you hear a show like that being so, and I hate to harp on them, but they're just a good example of it's really hard to know what to believe and what not to believe. But if you're someone driving around and you work in baseball or you're around baseball and you hear what they had to say about it, you think, oh, but that's not right. It's not the case. So A's fans, be very selective. Be very selective in what you're paying attention to. Be very selective in what you're consuming. You're a consumer. What are you consuming? Make sure what you're consuming is healthy, it's right. I mean, they're not. There's a lot of questions and not a whole lot of answers, but you can follow the yellow brick road. There's no question. I mean, there's a path to follow, and there's certain people to follow. But make sure you're consuming the right stuff, because it's very easy to not be. Let's just say that. Coming up next, Martín Gallegos from MLB.com is going to join us as we're going to talk about getting ready for spring training. Hard to believe. It's here. That's right. That's coming up next right here on A's Cast Live.
Oakland Athletics spring training is right around the corner, and you can be part of the excitement. Get your tickets now and plan ahead for a fun-filled trip to Mesa, Arizona this spring. Pack the sunscreen, bring your friends, pick up some ballpark classics, and watch your green and gold get ready for the regular season. Get your tickets today to see the Athletics take on the Giants, Padres, Cubs, Dodgers, and more. Tickets are on sale now at athletics.com/spring. That's athletics.com/spring.
It's that time of the year. Single game tickets are now on sale for the 2023 season. Don't miss out on securing your tickets for some of the biggest matchups, fireworks, drone shows, giveaways, and more. Visit athletics.com/tickets to get yours now. That's athletics.com/tickets.
This is Chris Townsend for the Chicken Pie Shop of Walnut Creek. Great news! Our indoor dining is back, along with our beautiful patio dining. Come taste our world-famous chicken pie that has been served in Southern California for 83 years. The Chicken Pie Shop of Walnut Creek has one of the most dynamic menus, plus a full bar. Pot pies, gourmet burgers, sandwiches, salads, flatbreads, and more. Don't forget, we still do takeout and delivery. For all the information, go to chickenpieshopwc.com. That's chickenpieshopwc.com.
If you're looking for the latest green and gold gear for the 2023 season, then look no further than athletics.com/shop for your officially licensed gear. That's athletics.com/shop.
Super agent Scott Boras joined A's Cast Live with Townie and discussed the success his clients have in Oakland.
And if a lot of our fans don't know, you've had a great relationship with David Forrest, even a better relationship all these years with Billy Beane and the Oakland Athletics. So as we joked, you're bringing Mount Fuji to the Bay Area. He wants to be called Fuji. Just why is he a great fit?
Well, by the way, I always tell every fan, I knew Billy Beane when he could run. Billy Beane could run. So he really could. This guy was a great athlete. He really was.
Yeah.
But the dynamic of Centauro is that he's got a big arm. He's always had a big arm. And the question was his command. And this year he developed a splitter. And by throwing the splitter in his arm slot, it allowed him to gain more command of his four-seam fastball. And by having those two pitches, he became dominant the last few months in Japan. And then I give credit to a few teams, particularly the A's, for scouting him. They the minute that he was a free agent, they called us. And as I said in the press conference today, we've just had great success in this organization. By, we bring Cole Irvin, we brought Frankie Montas, we've had Caprillion come here from the Yankees. Every pitcher that we've brought over, we also represent Blackburn. So every pitcher we've brought over here has succeeded. So we kind of feel that this environment is a place for players that we believe are coming to and coming into themselves to really ramp up and develop in the major league.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/A'sCast.
The A's YouTube page is your go-to destination for A's video content. Get access to great highlights, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, classic games, A's Cast Live, and more. Visit youtube.com/athletics.
Former A's manager Bob Melvin joined A's Cast Live and discussed the impact Sal Bando had on his career.
Where do you even start with, what he's meant to me? On a personal level, he literally spoon-fed me and held my hand through, my introduction into coaching, to scouting, to, and then being a resource for me. Professional level, obviously gave me my start, gave me my first job, gave me my first managing job in the fall league, gave me, everything to this point, and just somebody that I've gotten so close to over the years that, this was a real stinger to hear that he passed. He's had such great support from his family, but this is just one of the most instrumental and key people in my life.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/A'sCast.
Streaming from the East Bay, A's Cast Live continues with Chris Townsend.
That's right. We are back. A's Cast Live. Martín Gallegos is going to join us. Something we referenced the other day about the great Henry Aaron. Yesterday was his birthday. And we're going to have an article for you with some statistics that make you understand that this man was such a force in this game. I don't know how you make an argument that somebody was better. How about that, to phrase it that way, Cody? We're going to give you these numbers. I don't know how you could actually give me somebody else's numbers to compare against his to say that they were better than him. I with all due respect to, there's been over 20,000 players who have played Major League Baseball. When you actually look at Henry Aaron, and I've said it before, and I don't know how many people really have bought it, where I say, yeah, if I had to say who's the greatest of all time, I'm probably putting my money on Henry Aaron. And with his, obviously with his passing, we now are going to remember him every year on his birthday. And these numbers are just staggering. They're just literally staggering. When you throw around greats, GOATs, Mount Rushmores, we're going to give you some of these numbers. They're so eye-popping. I think it's a great way to put it. Who are you going to bring, and what numbers are you going to bring that you think can even come close to standing next to Henry Aaron?
Agree completely with you. The numbers in there are amazing.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah, and I don't want to give too much of it away, and Martín Gallegos is here, but yeah, we'll get into that because I saw that yesterday, and I wanted to make sure we touched on it because we talked about Henry Aaron last week and his total base number. There's more numbers than just his total bases that are just that'll blow you away.
There's one number that I read that, and it's so insane about how good of a hitter he was that literally it's going to blow your mind. There's this one stat, and that's called a tease. Martín Gallegos from MLB.com joins us. Martín, that is a tease. I will have a stat about Henry Aaron that will blow every baseball fan's mind about how great of an offensive player he was. How are you, my friend?
I'm great. I can't wait to hear that stat. I'm gonna stick around after this just to hear it from you, Tony.
Well, of course, you work for MLB.com. We got this from MLB.com, so I think you're really going to enjoy it. You had an article on Jesus Aguilar. Tell me why I want to be excited about him. I want to go back into my crystal ball way back machine and remember Frank Thomas when Frank Thomas was coming over from Chicago. Remember what Frank? I don't know. How old were you then? How old were you going into 2006 season?
Well, I definitely remember it. I think I was in high school, but I definitely remember, when he came over and had that resurgent ear. So
okay, so when he was coming here, though, he was coming just not with some baggage. He was coming with luggage. He was known at that point as a bad dude. He was known as a player with bad feet. I mean, bad feet, bad attitude, declining to career. Why would you even sign this guy? And it turned out all to be completely false. It's like when the weather guy predicts doom and gloom and rain, and all of a sudden you walk out and it's clear skies. That was Frank Thomas. He was a beautiful guy. He was a fantastic A. So you can't always judge a book by its cover. Sell me why Aguilar is going to be like that.
Well, I can't guarantee he's going to be Frank Thomas resurgent, but I think there's signs there that make it a good signing. He's not, he's only 32, so it's not like he's, one of those players who it seems like he's, on the complete downside of his career, washed up, trying to get one more year out of him. If you look at his stats prior to last season, obviously last year was pretty bad. Ended up getting released by the Marlins and went to Baltimore, and it wasn't much better there either. But before that, he had some really good seasons with the Marlins. He was a consistent run producer, middle of the order threat. Certainly for a team that just lost Sean Murphy. I mean, you're looking for any type of thump you could get in the middle of that lineup. Right now, it's really only Seth Brown as a guy who's proven to be able to do that over the course of a season. You hope guys like Shea Langoliers and maybe one or two others can step up and form, a pretty solid middle of the order. But Sousa Aguilar has been there before. He's done it. Obviously, 2018 was the big year when he was an All-Star. That's a few years removed from that. But even you look at 2021, his numbers are still pretty good with the Marlins. So, he's worked on some things this offseason. He talked to us about it. He's kind of looked to kind of rebuild his stance at the plate a little bit. He was getting pitched high and with velocity a lot. He's trying to combat that. But it still seems like he's got something left in the tank. It's not like he's a guy who's had, a few years of really bad baseball. Last year it was bad. But he seems committed to turning it around. And unlike you mentioned with, Frank Thomas coming with a little bit of baggage in terms of personality, it seems like this guy's a great personality. He played for Craig Counsell and Mark Kotze, obviously knows Counsell real well, and heard, really good reviews about him in the clubhouse. So, I mean, they're going to need some veterans in that clubhouse as well. And I think he's going to bring some leadership, especially for the younger Latin guys that the A's have coming up through the system who are going to make their major league debut or have played last year a little bit. I think he's going to be a really good resource in there. So I think kind of goes both ways. His production on the field, they're hoping for a turnaround there, but also what he's going to provide in the clubhouse. I think it's going to be pretty valuable as well.
Yeah, and that what you just talked about can be really big. Like the makeup of the team, we've got more of an idea of what we had last year, but still this is another year where there's a lot of unknowns and we could see a lot of players. And if there are a lot of young Latin American players, a guy like this can be so instrumental. I don't know how to put a value on it. I just know being in clubhouses all these years for these young guys that are making their journey into a new country, and they've been stashed basically playing in minor league cities that are small cities. Now you're coming to the big leagues, and there's a lot of pitfalls when you get to this level. I just talk really about that, what that means to have that veteran type guy that can help these young players. And we as fans like to think about it so much about helping them learn the ropes of the big leagues. Me, from the inside, will tell you it's more importantly how to help these guys how to live their lives and to be safe and to make good decisions away from the field.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's always important, especially like we said, there's a lot of young Latin guys in there. Last year, Elvis Andrus was the perfect guy for that. And once he left, there was really a void there in that clubhouse. There was nobody. They had a lot of Latin guys in there, but nobody with a ton of big league experience. I think maybe Domingo Acevedo had the most experience of the group, and he had only been in the big leagues for about a year. So, they kind of lacked that type of leadership. I mean, there was other veteran guys in there, like Stephen Bowe and stuff like that, and they did help them out as well. But I think obviously, without question, it helps when there's a guy in there who's speaks Spanish and has been in the league for a long time, knows how it all goes, knows the process of adjusting to a new country, to buying a house, to establishing a life here in the United States and trying to stick in the major leagues when you come over from another country. It can be pretty scary at times, and to have kind of an example of a guy who has successfully done it and can kind of share that knowledge, it's going to be really important for them to have that around. So that's where Aguilar is going to help a lot. But the A's feel like he's gonna bounce back with the bat as well. I think they look at the numbers and some areas where they think he can improve on. Spring training with Tommy Everidge and Chris Crone, they'll work on trying to help his selectivity at the plate a little bit. He has been kind of a free swinger in the past, but you look at the walk rate and the strikeout rate, and it's not too far off from the major league average. So he hasn't been like a horrible free swinger. It's just a little tweaks here and there at the AC that they can kind of help out this spring, and we'll see him in about a week when the players, pitchers, and catchers report.
Yeah, and really, this whole dynamic of first base DH it excites me because somebody's going to win jobs. Somebody's going to get at-bats because they deserve it. You know, whether we're talking about Garcia, who we got to see a lot last year, who the A's acquired from the Yankees because they ran out of room and couldn't put him on the 40-man, but obviously they liked him. Same thing with Noda coming over from the Dodgers. He's blocked by Freddie Freeman, so he was available Rule 5. Aguilar can play first base. Seth Brown, if we end up having young outfielders play well, Brownie's got to be in the lineup. He showed us he could play first base. So are you like me going, I don't know what the actual combination will be, but I feel like this first base DH will be a strength for the Athletics this year.
Yeah, I think it was definitely good last year. I mean, they went through 12 first basemen last year, which is crazy. But they do seem to have at least a little bit more of a defined group this year coming into spring. Like you mentioned, Garcia, Ryan Noda is going to get a chance. I think he's going to get a real chance. Maybe you see him in sort of a platoon with whether it's Garcia or Jesus Aguilar. I think Aguilar will play. He's probably going to split time between DH and first, but I think he'll probably end up playing a little bit more DH just so they can get, some of the more athletic type first basemen some chances there at the position. But it seems like they do have more, like I said, more of a defined group there. Some guys with some promise. Garcia, we know the type of pop that he has. He just, has to get a chance to play a little bit more often. Once he got that last year, he started to hit a little bit more. Kind of, end of the year a little bit, on a down note hitting wise, but I think he showed them enough to get another good look this spring. Noda, they're really excited about, it seems like. And Seth Brown can play everywhere. I mean, we'll probably see him in the outfield. We'll see him at first base. We'll see him DH sometimes. So I think versatility, it's always been a key with the A's, and especially this year, it seems like they got versatility all throughout the roster.
One of the biggest questions coming into spring training, kind of a tough one, because we know the history and we know what's happened lately. But if I ask you, who is Ramon Laureano? What's your answer? Who is he? Who really is he as a player?
Well, it seems like the last 2 years we've kind of tried to answer that question, right? And it hasn't been, we were expecting after he came back from the suspension to see if he could turn things around. Last year, he never turned around. It seemed like, he was getting injured a lot. And at no point in the season did he really feel like the Ramon Laureano of old. He just was never able to kind of find a consistent stretch. So, I mean, it's a big year for him. I mean, he's got to prove himself to a lot of people, prove himself to himself as well, I think. I know he was frustrated with the way his season ended. I mean, how could he not be? It was just, it was just bad being on a bad team as well. I don't think that helped, after so many years of being used to a team that's playing for something in contention for a playoff spot. So I think that had an effect on him as well. I think it took a toll seeing, guys get traded midseason. So it was just a bad situation for him last year. So I think, obviously coming into spring, I mean, we always talk about, a fresh start for guys. I think he needs to, take it as just a reset button, reset himself, and just come into it fresh start. A lot of stuff was clouding him last year with the coming back from the suspension, having to answer questions about that. So it was tough for him. And, who knows? I mean, he's still, since he's come back, like I said, he hasn't shown the Ramon Laureano of old. So he's got to prove that to everybody, and he's going to get a chance to do it. I mean, nobody on this team is going to really threaten him for his spot. So, if we get a chance to go out there and perform and see if he can find some semblance of who he is. He's still really young. The physical tools are there. It's just putting it back together again. And I mean, health is a big thing. I mean, it seems like he's only had really 1 year where he's been able to stay fully healthy over the course of the season. So that's always been a concern. Even his first year when he came up, he was battling some injuries. He just plays so hard. So it's just kind of trying to contain that and try to see if he could find something that could keep him, out of the trainer's room for most of the season.
Well, let's play the what-if game. What if first base DH is that combination, however you want to put it, of Aguilar, Garcia, Noda? So they're taking up the majority of the spots. Seth Brown's going to play. So Seth Brown's been playing right field. I don't want to see him in center. That was you had to put somebody out there. He's not a center fielder. I guess he could play left. Estuary Ruiz is a player that they're really high on, and they've been high on. And there's people who think this kid it could be a budding star, especially in the new rules with the amount of stolen bases going up. Whether it's a Connor Capel, Cody Thomas, I mean, there's all kinds of young players, even though Thomas isn't as young, but there's all kinds of players out there. Only so many at bats. You know, what happens? Let's say Ruiz comes out here in spring training and he's just electric. What do you do with Ramon Laureano? If you're like, Ruiz is this we got him, he is center field for the future. What do you do with Ramon?
Yeah, that would be interesting. I mean, I know around this time last year, there was, once the lockout ended, there was a lot of teams interested in Ramon Laureano, calling about potential trades. I don't know what that's looking like these days because he's coming off such a down year. I don't know if the A's would want to move him this year, but I think he's going to be a priority for them in terms of getting him in the lineup every day, especially to start this season. I think he probably moves to right field, which we saw a lot of it last year when they had Christian Pache up, and then you kind of saw him flipping back and forth from center and right after when Christian Pache got sent down. Christian Pache, by the way, also another, big question mark this spring. But
I was just going to ask you about Pache. I was going to ask you if you could buy stock, you'd be buying low, trying to make some money here if it works. But would you buy stock in Pache?
I mean, it's so low. I mean, why not? I would take a chance on it. But I mean, he's got a lot. I mean, he's, he played winter ball this year, and I couldn't really get a read if he made any improvements at all or not. The numbers didn't look great. I heard that he's been working on some hitting things, and it did look, a little better. Defensively, he looked great, but we always know he's looked great on, defense. It's all about can he hit a little bit. So, yeah. I mean, this is going to be a make or break for him in spring. I mean, if he comes to spring and is hitting, 200 or below, it's going to be hard for him to make this team. And he's out of options, so they're really going to have to make a decision on him because they've got another guy, like you mentioned, in Ruiz, who they're very high on. They feel like he could be their everyday center fielder from day one. That's how high they are on him. So with Pache, it's crazy how the fall has been from last year to this year. Last year going into spring, we thought maybe this was a big piece of their future, and now it's kind of up in the air whether or not he's going to be in Oakland A, past this spring. So that's going to be a big guy to watch in terms of just can he show enough improvement at the plate to be, a part of this team going forward.
When do you head to Arizona?
I'll be the report date. So February 15th, I'll be out there first day. Yep.
So it's getting close. I'm sure you're starting to get ready from a standpoint, just not packing, but you're starting to get ready for, what are my storylines? What do I want to hit early? Because you have to produce a lot of content. If people don't know, when you're a writer and you cover a Major League Baseball team, it's far different because during the season, you got your pregame notes, you got the game, and you got the postgame. It's kind of this, it's Groundhog Day. You do the same thing every day. In spring training, you got to come up with all this unique stuff, and especially a team like the Athletics. You got all kinds of young players, guys that you need to talk about who are not on the 40-man who could help this team. There's a lot going on. What are some storylines you're looking at early that you're going to tackle for MLB.com?
Yeah, I think obviously the starting rotation is going to be like a big thing that we're going to cover throughout the spring. I mean, there's so many question marks. There's like 10 guys competing for spots, and really, I don't think there's any real guarantees for spots right now. I mean, Paul Blackburn had a good year, but he's coming off an injury that ended his season early. James Caprillion had shoulder surgery this offseason. Both guys are expected to be in spring training and pretty healthy, but we don't know for sure until they actually, get on the mound down there. Cole Irvin's gone now, so that was who we thought was going to be their opening day starter. Who's going to be their opening day starter now? I don't think we really have any idea of that. Fujinami, who they just signed, obviously there was a big excitement over that, but we haven't seen him face major league hitters really. So that's going to be an interesting thing to follow. Rusinski coming over after a couple of years in Korea, and then all the top prospects they have there. Ken Waldichuk, who we saw last year. Kyle Muller, who they got from the Braves. There's so many guys, vying for spots there. That's just I think there's enough there to produce 10 different stories on 10 different guys there. And then you look at just, other guys that are coming in. Shea Langoliers, how does he handle moving into a full-time role as a starting catcher? What do they do around the infield, third base, second base? They got guys like Jace Peterson and Ledmus Diaz as newcomers. Can Jesus Aguilar show some signs that maybe a bounce back is coming? That's going to be a big thing. The bullpen, who's going to be the closer. I think there's a lot of guys who kind of showed that maybe they could do it, but they went through ups and downs last year as rookies. They brought in Trevor May as kind of a veteran type guy. He's got an interesting story. He's a fun guy to talk to. I remember when we talked to him earlier this off season. So there's going to be no shortage of stories, which is great for me. I mean, I'll be busy all spring for sure up until the end, because there's always going to be, plenty of, question marks on this roster that got to be answered. And it's probably going to take all the way up until, the final games of the Cactus League to kind of figure out how this roster kind of shapes up. And so many top prospects as well, they're going to join them in camp, like Soderstrom, Geloff, kind of the future guys who we expect to see at some point in 2023 in Oakland. They'll be in big league camp and getting kind of their feet wet with the major leaguers. And, it's kind of be interesting. It's always interesting to see how they handle themselves. Soderstrom from day one has always kind of looked like a veteran, even when he was like 19 in camp. And now he's really close to reaching the big leagues. And he's obviously the guy who they feel can be kind of a cornerstone for this team. So there's plenty of storylines here for sure.
Yeah, and that changes everything at first base, right? Because once he comes up, you plan on him being here for a long time. So that's kind of the, we talk about Garcia, Noda, and that whole thing. But once he comes up, he needs he's not coming up to get some ABs. If he's coming up to play every day, or he should come up to play every single day. And that leads me to, and I know I could be wrong on this. I'm sure they would tell me I'm wrong on this, but I'm still not buying it, and I'm sticking with this. Jordan Diaz is a guy that's so young. They don't promote young. We haven't seen them really promote young in a long time. And last year he got promoted, and it was like, well, why not? I'm not buying that. At any time they haven't been bad years, good years, they don't promote young. But when he's down there hitting 340, he didn't have a position. You had nowhere to put him. You didn't know where to put him. And what did he do? You brought him up. I think there's a reason they brought him up. I don't know where you're going to play him. I don't know how the plan will work. We'll see what he looks like in spring training. What does the body look like? But to me, I think it speaks volumes that he was so young and they brought him up to the big leagues because they know he can flat out hit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we saw it right away. It didn't really take him much time to have to adjust. And, when they went into the offseason, they prepared a full plan for him. So they definitely are high on him. I mean, they had some, list of things that they wanted him to work on. One of them, as you mentioned, was what kind of shape he's in. He was a little bit, they feel like, could be in better shape. So they put together a diet for him with the team and all that and had him stick to it. And, from what I've seen, just based on, videos that he's posted of workouts, he does look a little bit leaner. This off season, he's cut some weight, maybe added some muscle. So, I mean, he'll be, quote, best shape of my life come spring training, like everybody. But it seems like he is, taking it very seriously. And I think he knows, the opportunity that he got last year to kind of get his foot in the door was big, and he performed well. So, I don't know where his spot is on this year's roster. Like you said, there's a lot of infielders that they have, middle infielders, and he could get some time at first base as well. He's played that in the minors. So, I mean, he's a little short for the position, but I think he could play it definitely. But I think finding where he can fit best, second base, third base, first base. I don't know if you want to DH him. He's so young. You want to maybe try to find a spot for him first. But he's going to be a guy in spring who's going to kind of, I think, has to prove himself as well. But he's coming in with a little bit of an advantage that he's had, some success already at the big league level, as we saw last year to end the season.
All right, so you're going down to spring. You're going to be there a long time. You're very familiar with the Valley of the Sun. If somebody calls you and says, hey, I'm going to spring training for the first time, what's your advice for these fans as they come to the Valley of the Sun?
Well, especially around, if you're coming to a spring training, it's pretty close to Phoenix and everything. So Scottsdale is a good place to visit. There's a lot of good places in the area. If you're looking for restaurants, if you're looking for entertainment, I think just taking in, the other sites outside of baseball, obviously, there's plenty of baseball around. If you want to hit the different camps, there's Cubs camp just right down the road. The Giants aren't that far away. There's plenty of teams to watch in addition to the A's. But I'd say try to go out a little bit past, outer Arizona. Maybe I know I went to Sedona for the first time last year. That was awesome. I went there for a day, and there's plenty of stuff to do in Arizona, and the weather's always, nice and warm, so you don't got to worry about, rain or anything. So, there's a lot of stuff to do out here for sure.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I never do, but they tell me about it all the time, and our old buddy Bob Melvin would talk about it. It's a great hiking place, and Arizona's so interesting because all these towns, whether you're in Scottsdale, Mesa, Tempe, Phoenix, they all run into each other, and you never quite know when you're in one of them and you're out of the other. But like you can go out to Camelback Mountain and hike, and it's at the time of the year where the weather, it's not 115 or 110. It really, the hiking is legendary. So you can do baseball during the day, and in the late afternoon, the beautiful sunsets, you can do the hiking, and the hiking's legendary.
Yeah, for sure. And then after you're all done, you can hit downtown Scottsdale, maybe get some food, get a bite, get a drink. There's like plenty to do. Like you said, it all intersects. You don't know when you hit, Scottsdale, merge into Mesa, Tempe. It's all in one spot. So it's kind of a hub there for baseball fans. And I know, whenever I get a chance to kind of go out and get some food or something down there, there's always plenty of baseball fans out there. So it's a fun time. I definitely recommend it, especially if it's your first time going there. I think it'd be a fun experience for everybody.
All right, buddy. Be well. We'll see you on the 21st when we arrive.
Sounds good, Tony. See you down there.
Martín Gallegos from MLB.com. Cody, by the way, did you see the shirt that I'm wearing today?
It's an opening day shirt, right? Or opening series.
Where?
Japan.
This is a shirt from Tokyo, Japan. Since I was doing the Mariners podcast today and it was on video, I busted out the 2019 opening series shirt that I got at the Tokyo Dome. A's up against the Mariners, Ichiro's last games. How about that? How many people have this shirt?
That I know, I think you're the only one. Let's be real. And you got to see Ichiro play his final games, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I remember watching that. I was still at the old station at that time. 4 a.m, I was awake because I had to work, and those games are on TV here at 4 a.m. So that's pretty cool. You're wearing that. By the way, I don't know if you saw this. Stephen Piscotty's back in the Bay Area. Signed with the Giants this morning.
Did he really?
Yeah. Robert Murray, our friend from Fansided, reported that Piscotty signed a minor league deal, and I think he gets a bonus if he makes the major league roster, which with some of the guys the Giants signed in the offseason, Haniger and Conforto, he might be on the team at some point this year.
Yeah, and I forgot Cody Thomas was designated for assignment. We haven't signed him back, have we?
I'd have to look, but I don't think so. The former Oklahoma quarterback.
Who I hate to get rid of him. He's too good of an athlete that's just finding it right now. And I think that Jordan Diaz thing, I do think there's something to it.
Yeah.
We're going to see there's a lot of under the radar. I guess this would be the best way to put it. There's a lot of under the radar competition going into spring training. Anthony Castrovince, our buddy from MLB.com, national writer, will join us next right here on A's Cast Live.
The Oakland Athletics begin spring training on February 25th. Now's the time to make plans to catch us in Mesa, Arizona, and enjoy the sunshine of your family and friends. Buy your tickets early for the best seats at the lowest prices as your green and gold take on the Giants, Dodgers, Padres, Angels, and more at Hohokam Stadium.
And Tony, it's a deep drive to right in the corner. Gritchick going back. He'll turn and watch it fly.
Get your tickets at athletics.com/spring. That's athletics.com/spring.
Humanity has accomplished a whole lot so far. We created penicillin, the automobile, and the internet, not to mention drones, duct tape, and the hot dog. It's all thanks to the power of human connections. And Ring Central's here to make that even easier, more seamlessly and securely, on a platform built to grow your business. Say hello to a whole new way to say hello. Visit ringcentral.com and say hello to possibilities. Ring Central. Message, video, phone, together.
1972 World Series MVP Gene Tennis joined A's Cast Live and reminisced about the days of being roommates with Sal Bando.
Sal and I had a lot of, we had a great time together for 6.5 years or whatever it was. But him and I would get in wrestling matches in the room, and then I'd get the best of him sometime, and then he'd get ticked off, and then he would just literally pick me up. and Buggy whipped me up against the bed, the back headboard of the bed, and I told Tommy, that's enough. I'm not paying for no stuff broken in this room. We ain't making that kind of money, neither you or me.
Yeah.
So we would get into our scuffles and arguments, and then we'd end up going to dinner together. And he was a great roommate. I had a lot of fun with Sal.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/A'sCast. This is Chris Townsend for the Chicken Pie Shop of Walnut Creek. Great news! Our indoor dining is back, along with our beautiful patio dining. Come taste our world-famous chicken pie that has been served in Southern California for 83 years. The Chicken Pie Shop of Walnut Creek has one of the most dynamic menus, plus a full bar. Pot pies, gourmet burgers, sandwiches, salads, flatbreads, and more. Don't forget, we still do takeout and delivery. For all the information, go to chickenpieshopwc.com. That's chickenpieshopwc.com.
If you're looking for a new mattress, Nest Bedding has you covered. Sleep on the same mattress Hall of Famer Ricky Henderson sleeps on. Nest Bedding is a national brand with family-owned prices and service. You can shop at one of their Bay Area locations, and all stores are sanitized and safe, or you can navigate their easy-to-use website, nestbedding.com. That's nestbedding.com. Green and gold fans, use the coupon code Oakland, and you'll get 10% off your entire order. Nest Bedding, love where you sleep.
A's Cast Live continues from the town. Here's Chris Townsend.
Well, now joining us from MLB.com, he does an absolute wonderful job covering our sport, and we always love to bust out his book. Anthony Castrovince joins us as one of the books that we have here in our library in studio with us that we always have around that I think it's phenomenal for all baseball fans, A Fan's Guide to Baseball Analytics. It just takes you through. It's got a lot of humor to it, but it really explains what these analytics are, why they're important, how they're implemented. And Anthony, I was thinking about it, as we start to change in baseball, this might be something that this book, you can redo this book almost like over and over again. Because it's such a good book, but as these things change, there's so much you could add to it.
There is. I wrote it to be as evergreen as is humanly possible in our game, which is not very possible. There's always going to be adjustments, and I think like defense, for instance, since the book was completed, like outs above average on our MLB.com's outs above average stat has gotten much better. At the time the book was released, infield outs above average had just come out. We had already had outfield outs above average. Now we have infield as well. I think catcher defense is still a really untapped area that could improve. But generally speaking, I mean, a lot of that book holds up in that the very basics of what it means to be like league average, better than league average, worse than league average, and then just the parameters of that. I think we've come a really long way in a short time in analytics, and I'm not suggesting that there's not more room to grow. I just named a couple areas of room to grow. Defense is the big one, but I think when it comes to offense and pitching, I mean, I think we're in a pretty good spot in terms of a base level of this is what we have to work with.
Well, and once again, I'll hold it up for fans. Fans, you can get it online right now, and you'll have it in like 2 days, 3 days. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it all at Barnes & Noble online. You can get it. And the key to reading it is it's a fast read, and you got a little over a month before the season starts. So so I always say it was good for Christmas, but I think right now is we're getting into our baseball juices are flowing. We're getting ready for spring training, as we'll be down in Arizona by February 21st. Pitchers and catchers are reporting on the 15th. For fans, Anthony, I think it's a great read right now to get you into the start of the season.
Yeah, definitely. And I got to tell you, I turn to it myself sometimes still, because even though I wrote the thing, like the appendix in the back where, that's one of the great values of it is, we hear these numbers, weighted runs created plus or OPS plus, ERA plus, FIP, WHIP, etc. what is a good whip, what is a bad whip, and to have those charts in the back and just have that framework. So when you see these stats, like, okay, put this into context for me. I think the book does a good job of that. To toot my own horn, if I may.
Oh no, we always I love bringing it up because people ask all the time.
I appreciate that.
And you know what? People are afraid of analytics because people just, let's face it, you want to go to the ballpark, you want to have a beer, you want to have a sausage, you want to sit there and you want to watch the game, you want to be entertained, you want to get in your car and you want to go home. You want to watch our show. If you're an A's fan, or, we have a lot of Major League Baseball fans in the Bay Area and people outside the Bay Area who watch or listen to this show, but it's entertainment, right? You don't want to think about your job. You don't want to think about your bills. You don't want to think about your issues. And then all of a sudden, you want to make this complicated on me by throwing in all these math equations, because that's what they are. You can see how people go, we need to help people realize, no, this can be incorporated into your entertainment part. This can be fun for you too.
I think the key is, it's called analytics. And I think, what it is information. If you think of it in that way, it's just information, as opposed to analytics somehow seems like a scarier term than information.
Dirty
We all
word.
want information. Yeah. I think as fans of any sport or of any entertainment product, I mean, we want information. If we're movie fans, we want to know the next movie coming out, and that's what analytics is information. It's just a different way of presenting information. And that's what I try to get across in the book, is that the basic concepts are the same. We want to look at stats because we want to know who is good, who is bad. We want to know, is my guy, how does he compare to the rest of the league? We used to do that with batting average, and I explain why that's not, as effective a tool as it could be. Batting average, ERA, wins, etc. And yeah, these are weird terms to us who grew up with those, traditional metrics, but it's the same thing. It's just trying to get information and trying to relate how a player performs relative to the rest of the league.
This is an interesting year. All of them are, but this one really is. It started with actually in December of 2022 when we were down at the winter meetings, and the sport's back, right? Everybody's back. The sport is officially back. We've moved on from COVID. We're having a full year. We were just down in Arizona for fantasy camp. That was back and going. We're now going to have spring training. We're ready to rock. And you just think about where the game is. We're having major changes with rules, which is going to be interesting. Some may work, some may not, but we're seeing change like other sports have. Right now, we have a top-heavy sport where you got teams that are spending a lot of money, we're going for it, and you got too many teams that are not, and I'll admit we're one of them. We're in an interesting time. So when you look at some of the top storylines going into the season as a national columnist, what are you most interested in?
The rule changes are the number one story in MLB, hands down. It's the biggest sea change to the rule book outside of the pandemic year, where we had all those pandemic protocols and whatnot. In the modern era, I would argue you could maybe compare, coming off the year of the pitcher, where they lower the mound and adjust the strike zone. That was a pretty big change as well, and it showed in the statistics. But in terms of something that's going to have long-term staying power and really change just the rhythm of the sport, really return the rhythm of the sport to something it used to be, that's what this does. The pitch timer is a huge and necessary, I would say, change for the game. So I'm really excited that it's coming to the big league level. I've seen it quite a bit in the minor leagues. I actually just saw it over the weekend at a college tournament where they were training the people who are going to be running the boards, the pitch timer consoles. And it really brings baseball back to a rhythm that I think we grew up with. So there's that, and the defensive shift limitations, the bigger bases, et cetera. So all that, just the adjustment to that, and it'll be fascinating to see, the effects of each of those changes. That's number one story in MLB. And then from a team, competition perspective, you got some loaded teams in the National League, and obviously the Mets have probably dominated the winter more than any other team in terms of just being a talking point. And some of that was something they didn't get done with Carlos Correa, but they did get a lot done. So, can they live up to what is essentially a World Series or bust situations. This is a function of how much money they spent. You got the Padres in, I would suggest, a World Series or bust kind of mode, because that team could look a lot different a year from now if Manny Machado opts out and Snell and Darvish will be free agents. So, they made the huge signing to Xander Bogaerts and get Tatis back from his suspension. And, it'll be fascinating to see if that team can live up to its potential. But, there's all kinds of stories like that. But, those are the ones that jump out to me. I think the top of the National League is I think, so much more dynamic than the top of the American League, where I still think it's the Astros league to lose. I still think they're clearly the best team in the league. Whereas in the National League, you got a handful of clubs that could really duke it out.
Just think about this. We are the entertainment business, and sometimes people forget that. And when I was growing up, running was a big part of the game. For God's sakes, on our desk right here, Ricky Henderson, the all-time stolen base leader, scored more runs than anybody else. My man, Jose Canseco, who was the first 40-40 man of all time. We've addressed it on this show going, 40-40 could be back.
Yeah.
And I was asking the question, with the new rules, what's going to be easier, getting the 40 dingers or the 40 stolen bases? You'd immediately would say 40 home runs. Only 4 guys hit 40 or more home runs last year. I'm just wondering, the stolen base. I mean, we used to have Vince Coleman and Tim Raines and obviously Ricky Henderson. Are we going to start seeing guys with 30, 40 stolen bases, guys, the true base stealers back up to 70, 80? Do you think we could see that right away?
I don't know about 70, 80. I think what the math, what the data suggests from the minor leagues, if we were to apply the minor leagues, first of all, have a more heightened stolen base environment as it is. So they're working off of a different base than the big league level. But if you apply it, the numbers to the big league level and adjust for that, I think you get to like where we were in the early 2000s, which is pretty, that's a big improvement from where we've been in the last 10 plus years, where the stolen base has really gone away. For those who don't know, the pitch timer is married to a limitation on the number of pickoff attempts you can make before you're charged with a balk. You can only make 2. If you make a third, you have to get the runner out or you're charged with a balk. So, that inspires some more aggressive leads. And we saw that in the minor leagues. That we saw on average a half stolen base attempt more per game last year than prior to the pitch timer, and we saw a 10% jump in stolen base success rate. If you can apply that to the big leagues, the game looks a lot different, because then you have a better pace and you have more action on the base pass, and that could also work in conjunction with the defensive shift limits. So now maybe you have more base hits than you used to have. Now you have more guys at first base and they're taking bigger leads and they steal more bases. And now it's just a more viewable product. When MLB set about to look into what they could do from a rules perspective, they did all kinds of surveys of what do fans want to see. And the number one thing fans want to see is just action and athleticism. They want to see action on the base pads. They want to see athleticism in the field. So you should have that. The defensive shift limits force the middle infielders to be more athletic, as opposed to just being positioned where the ball is going to be hit. They're going to have to get to the ball. And it inspires more base running, does the pitch timer. So I'm excited to see what that could mean long term.
Yeah, 2 things on that. First, defensively, I remember thinking about the Dodgers not too long ago, where when you shift as much as people started to shift on right hand, we were so used to left-handed batters being shifted. Now we're watching right-handed batters being shifted. Well, because Seager and Turner for the Dodgers had no range, right? So if you shifted everybody over, you're playing more, balls at Turner and Seager are okay. It's going laterally where they're not very good, right? So you protected them, but you wanted their bats in the lineup. How many guys now, and we'll throw Seager because he wasn't very good defensively last year, his first year in Texas. We got to see that as we really got to see him more than ever before. But how many guys that are big bats that we protected with shifts now get exposed defensively?
Yeah, and we do. I mean, we have some big shortstops. We're in an era of big, productive shortstops, and they'll be tested more by this. I think the bigger adjustment is at second base. I think we've seen some teams really try to. I remember when Mike Moustakas played second base, right? So I mean, we've seen some teams take some real gambles there that they were in a good position to take with extreme shifting, and now that's gone away. And you can't play Mike Moustakas at second base anymore. And I think it's I think there's more demands on the second baseman now. Because you're not shading your shortstop over to the right-hand side against left-handed batters like you otherwise would. So there's more pressure on the second baseman. And it's a tough position to play anyway, the double play, pivot, and all that stuff. So the value of a rangy, athletic second baseman is more pronounced. A guy like Kemp there in Oakland he's a good defender. He had a bad offensive season last year. 2 years ago, he had a really good offensive season. You put that together, it's a really good player. But I think about, maybe teams are more willing to swallow the, difficulty on the offensive side now if it's a guy who can deliver for you with the glove at second base.
If we take a page out of the NFL or the NBA's playbook, and we know that styles make fights, one of the things that's interesting about all these great fights and battles inside the NFL is with different quarterbacks, you have different styles, right? You can have a wide open with Patrick Mahomes. You can have a wide open playbook, and it's just amazing. And then you got a team like the 49ers who are going to pound you. They got a running game, and they got great defense. You have different styles of how to win. Same thing in the NBA. You could be a big three-point team, or you could still, play to your big man down. I mean, there's different ways to play. Baseball, it seemed like all 30 teams are all trying to play the same way. 3 true outcomes: home runs, walks, stolen bases. Maybe, just maybe, like when we were growing up and you had like the St. Louis Cardinals where Tommy Herr could have 114 RBIs but only 9 home runs. And you had all these Cardinals running the bases. And, different ways to play makes it more exciting that not everybody looks the same. Hopefully we'll see that. Are you looking forward to that and hoping that we will see that? Different ways to win baseball games.
That's a great point. Just a personality to teams. We've seen that in, I think about the Royals in 2014, 2015, back-to-back pennant winners and World Series winners in 2015. They definitely had a personality. They ran the bases like crazy. They put the ball in play. They played really good defense, and they were somewhat of an outlier. I think the Giants, those Giants teams were kind of similar, really strong in the bullpen, put the ball in play, et cetera. Last year, the Cleveland Guardians got a lot of ink for just putting the ball in play in a time when not many people were doing that. Yeah, making contact. What a concept. And now that skill is more valuable because of the defensive shift restrictions. So I do think you've seen teams starting to look into that a little more, where teams are always going to go towards where the outlier is, or what is kind of going against the grain. And we did get a rut there, I think, for a while, where it was very much home run, walk, strikeout. And I think teams have maybe targeted some guys higher than the others would have, from a contact perspective in recent years. So you'll start to see that come to the big league level. The game got very homogenous, to your point, very power oriented. And now hopefully, we'll see a shift. It won't be every team. I mean, the New York Yankees aren't going to be contact oriented. They're going to be power oriented. They're going to be Aaron Judge oriented. But I think for smaller market or mid-market teams in particular, that's a place where you could gain ground on clubs, as if you're good in that department. The Guardians were a perfect example of that last year.
Well, every single day we get the email of all of everything that's going on MLB.com. So we're very fortunate on looking at what all of you guys are doing. But for our fans, love reading you. What do you have coming up getting us ready for spring training and ready for the start of the season?
Oh man, this is a busy time of year. All kinds of stuff. I mean, for one, we talked about the rules changes. That's kind of been my baby the last year, really, and particularly in this off season, as we just start to just educate fans about what they're going to see. And I'll have an article about the field timing coordinators and what that job entails. That should be up any minute now, actually. I'll have my annual all underrated team, guys who tend to not get the national love, who might be worth a closer inspection. We'll do our annual list of the winter winners, as if that means anything. Usually it's a curse to be at the top of that list, but But yeah, the teams who made the most noise this winter. And yeah, just general spring training preview stuff. If you're a fan of a particular team, I mean, we're going to have you covered here. In short order, we're going to have a lot of content pumping out from each camp. So it's an exciting time of year.
Wait, rewind that. Field time coordinator?
It's the field timing coordinator. So the position's actually existed for several years because we have had, the clock on between innings breaks, mound visits, pitching changes, but it was a pretty low profile job. It wasn't much to it. Now there's a lot to it. Now that's a really important person in the ballpark because that person has to be on every pitch. And, when the pitcher receives the ball from the catcher, when the pitcher goes into his motion, the clock stops. When they are basically the arbiter of when a play is dead, and now we're counting down the 30 seconds to the next batter. So it's a pretty big spot. They're actually going to be in direct communication with the umpire throughout the game. They're going to have a headset, and if the umpire will have hand signals during innings to them if they need to reset the clock or whatever they need to do. And then between innings they can check in with each other. So it's kind of, this person is kind of an extension of the umpiring crew in a way. They are not billed as such, but they really are an important. It's a really important job.
Well, and I was asked this question, and I went, well, we're going to have to wait and see. But with all this enforcing time and enforcing new rules, do umpires have more responsibility than ever before?
Oh yeah. I was just talking to a few of them over the weekend about that. That's a really difficult job. It's become even more difficult in an era with crazy velocity and crazy movement, and it's harder than ever to call balls and strikes. I think that we as fans yelling at our screens get spoiled by this electronic box we have to work with, and probably overlook just how tough that job is. But now you're adding all kinds of new wrinkles to that job, and I think the biggest takeaway when you step back is just it's the same thing for that field timing coordinator. For those 3 hours or whatever the game is, there's no break for the umpire. And I'm not, I'm not saying, pity the poor umpire. They signed up for this, but the between innings breaks are pretty much their only chance to catch their breath. But even then, as I mentioned, they'll be checking in with the field timing coordinator. As one umpire told me, the days of kind of chatting, the umpire who's in the field kind of chatting up with the coach, that's going away. There's no more, hey, what'd you have for dinner last night? Where'd you guys come from, etc. It's because they're going to have to be policing the defensive shift limits and making sure the infielders are properly positioned on every pitch. The home plate umpire is going to have to be monitoring the clock on every pitch. So, hang with them. It's a much different job in 2023 than it was even in 2022.
No doubt about it. And I always like to bring it up. We talk about your book even when you're not here for all baseball fans. It's a great book to read right before spring training and right during spring training, A Fan's Guide to Baseball Analytics, just trying to get you up to date and what you need to know for the season. It's great stuff. We always love having you on the program. We read you on MLB.com. You do a great job. Let's talk soon.
All right, Chris. Thanks for having me, sir.
Anthony Castrovince from MLB.com. He's terrific. And Cody, never before have umpires, and I was having this discussion, and I'm glad we asked Anthony because obviously he said last year he's been looking over it. Never before have the umpires had so much responsibility. Their responsibility has always been, I'm calling balls and strikes. You got to control the game. You got to keep people from killing each other. You got to keep order. You got to deal with the managers. There's stuff, but now you got to deal with time. Time is never really something they've really ever had to deal with. Something that you do see in the other sports. Time's a big thing. You've got to keep track. You got clocks. You got to get that ball past half court in the NBA. Football, you got to get that snap off. You got to, they are now going to have to keep track of time, which they've never really had to before. And just like in football, hey, you throw that flag because you didn't get the snap off, that dramatically changes things. Well, now all of a sudden you don't get that pitch off, it dramatically changes things. You've got to keep track. You've got to keep track of how many pickoffs. 1, 2, oh, it's the third. You didn't get the guy. That's a balk. I mean, there's a lot of things that they're keeping track of these things will dramatically affect the outcomes of games on a daily basis. This just isn't balls or strikes. Is the guy out at first, guy out at second? You're keeping track of the game at all times. Why? Because there's timers now.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And one thing to think about too, like what the bang bang plays at first, and when Kotze, say Mark Kotze wants to challenge a play, and there's a bang bang play, he literally would have to, when the play ends, go out there, put his hand up, like wait, and then I think he has like 15 seconds or so to decide if he wants to challenge the play. Like that's something the managers are going to have to use too. Not only that, there's 10 new umpires they hired this year, I believe, right? They promoted 10 umpires.
By the way, Cody, to that point right there, how many times have they screwed up how long a manager had to challenge something? Because there's been times where you say, wait a minute, this is their challenge. The manager got to challenge this, and this is way past the time frame where he should be allowed. And this is not as dramatic as messing with balls and strikes. I mean, they're really going to have to, if they're not on top of their game, handling the time of the game now, they will be exposed.
For sure. And like I said, there's, I think 10 umpires retired, so they have to, they promoted 10 new umpires. So that's something to follow and see how that goes. But yeah, if I think it's 15 seconds for pitchers with nobody on base. Yeah. If you don't do it within 15 seconds, it's a ball. Hitter, same thing, but it's a strike. It's going to be, I mean, we're both for, I mean, we've been waiting for this time after watching minor league baseball. I think this is going to be great. It's going to be also a field study from the article Anthony wrote about how this affects pitcher injuries and player injuries. That's something to follow going forward, just taking it further from the umpires. But the umpires, 100% agree with you. They have more responsibility than they ever had this year because of all the different timing issues. It's not just the between innings and all that and the pitch changing. It's everything they have to keep track of.
It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot, but it's going to be good for the game. And I like to, as you know, I always like to talk about other sports to help explain our sport because you get it, right? You can see, oh, okay. In football, the Philadelphia Eagles are different than the Kansas City Chiefs. They just are. This Super Bowl you're going to watch next Sunday in Arizona. By the way, Arizona, oh my God. You've got the waste management on the PGA Tour, which hundreds of thousands of people attend this event. It's like the most attended golf event. It's crazy how many people go to this event and the Super Bowl happening at the same time. Wow. Valley of the Sun, going to be crazy. But just take the Super Bowl. The playbook for the Kansas City Chiefs is dramatically different from the Philadelphia Eagles. And you can go from team to team. What they do, take two rivals, right? What the Green Bay Packers do with Aaron Rodgers, the next Raiders quarterback. He talked about it down at the AT&T. Did you hear about that?
No, but I know everyone's Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs won them there.
The most at Pebble Beach, where Aaron Rodgers just won the celebrity portion of the golf tournament, he said the team that was most yelling for him to come was Raiders. Very interesting. He noticed a lot of Raider fans saying, want you in Vegas. Anyway, Justin Fields of Chicago, they're bitter rivals, Bears and Packers. Their offenses, because their quarterbacks are completely different. So you have teams every single Sunday when they match up, and I like to use Niners against whoever. They're going to be different. That helps promote football. Well, that will help promote baseball. It'll be fun to watch a super power hitting team going up against a team that's built on speed, if we have that again. And that may be the way when we talk about how it's easier to find speed and contact than it is power, in theory. I mean, I might be talking out of my you-know-what here, but in theory, fighting guys who can make contact and run should be easier than finding a bunch of guys who hit the ball out of the ballpark. So, we kind of had it in Cleveland and New York in the postseason, but what if you have smaller market teams that say, we're going to be built on speed, we're going to steal bases. Look how easy it is to steal bases. And everybody's going to rant and rave, and I hate these new rules. And you say, I don't care. We're taking advantage of that. And next thing you know, you got a bunch of – I mean, Yankees are a pitching staff that's built on we're going to huff, we're going to puff, and we're going to blow your house down. The Yankees are an analytic-built team, top to bottom, and they are all about velocity. Well, what happens when all of a sudden you're running wild on Yankee pitchers? And they're not built on defense, by the way. They're not great defensively. So what if you're running, they're trying to hit home runs, and you're running on them like it's going – it's an interesting contrast. It will be interesting. And what it won't be is two teams that are identical in the Red Sox and the Yankees playing the 3 true outcome game, strikeouts, walks, and home runs, and they're playing 4.5-hour games because they're the exact same team. You could take not too long ago when both were like two of the powers, Red Sox have fallen off. But you could tell me if I'm wrong, Cody. You could have taken the Yankees and you could have taken the Red Sox and just had them switch jerseys, and it still would have looked like both they were the same teams.
You're correct. They were so similarly built. With power, the Yankees are still a power team. The Red Sox, as you mentioned, clearly nowhere near what they were before. Like the interesting contrast to watch with the Yankees would be a team like us, the A's, because there's speed guys built in the lineup. There's not a lot of power aside from Seth Brown. Another team to watch in the National League might be the Marlins.
Hey, don't forget about Aguilar. We just talked to Martín Gallegos about it.
I mean, there is an article out about projected home run hitters, and they said Ramon Laureano and Seth Brown were both going to hit 20.
And one of these guys, I don't know who, but Noda or Garcia, one of them's going to hit some, maybe both, but I got a feeling one of them's going to win some playing time and going to hit some dingers.
Yeah, I mean, they both have great power, but I think Noda might be the guy. I mean, as you mentioned, blocked by Freddie Freeman, put up some good numbers in AAA with the Dodgers in Oklahoma City, but a team like Miami is another one to watch too. I mean, they don't have a lot of power. They don't score. I mean, they're not built on offense, but they've added some guys. They have John Birdie, who stole 50 bases last year for them, and they might be a team that tries to run more this year. Trey Turner's going to steal bases for the Phillies, but we're going to see a lot more steals, but I think the contrast between two teams is going to be great. Not seeing Yankees, Red Sox playing a 4-hour game, or who else plays long games? Anyone in the Yankees really play long games.
Anybody in the Toronto, anybody in the East, they play American League East plays the longest games. I'll be curious. I know we'll be fascinated with the 40-40, but a guy that can run a little bit is Bryce Harper.
Yeah, true.
I mean, now obviously he's got to come back from Tommy John, but if Bryce Harper, where he is now in his career in his prime, I could see him being a 30-30 guy.
Let's see. I'm looking up right now what his career high in steals was. His career high in steals was 21 in 2016 when he was 23. He hit 24. He was a 20 guy that year. So yeah, I can see him doing it if they let him run. Yeah, I can see him doing it.
30. I could, if Machado wants to run, Machado could be 30-30.
For sure. I dare I say his name, because who knows what he's going to be like. But on paper, in theory, Nando could be that guy if he stays healthy.
You're just infatuated with that the
Nando.
ringworm cheater Nando.
If Trout stays healthy, he's clearly a 30, but he doesn't run anymore. But if he started running again, Ohtani could be a guy like that too if they let these guys run.
Oh, Ohtani could eat. Yeah, Ohtani loves to run.
A guy you would have said a couple years ago before he just kind of fell off the face of the earth, Yelich would have been a guy. You could have said have been a 30-30, close to 40-40 guy.
You want to fall off the earth guy that could have been that guy too is Bellinger.
Yeah, they both the MVPs back-to-back years could have been those guys, and they both now they're in the same division.
Hey, something that I really respect about Ohtani just loves to play. And Ohtani loves to run. I mean, we've seen it against us. He takes off. He likes playing. To where sometimes guys get paid, guys get to a certain age, guys are, they just want to hit bombs and put up stats. Ohtani loves playing the game. He loves stealing bases. So, let Ohtani go. Ohtani could be a 40-40 guy. I mean, all he does is hit. I mean, it's not like he's standing out there on his legs on defense for 9 innings. Maybe the guy to really, if we had to bet 40-40, the guy really is Ohtani.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. In 2021, when he hit 46 home runs, he also stole 26 bases. Now he's caught.
Ohtani runs, man. Don't go to sleep on him stealing bags.
I mean, he only stole 11 last year, but maybe that'll increase this year. I mean, he only attempted 20 steals last year.
There's going to be a lot. There is going to be. That's why I'm hoping. Don't know. We're not going to know until we see it. But I think the volume of stolen bases is going to skyrocket because there's going to be a lot of freebies. If you're somebody like Shohei Ohtani, what is he, 6'5"?
Ohtani is, I think, 6'4".
6'4", 6'5".
He's tall.
He's standing over there with a long lead. You know how far off the bag he looks?
A lot.
I don't know how much you've pitched and thrown over, but when you're a right-handed pitcher and you come set and you look over and you're looking through, it's your peripheral vision, and this dude's going to look so far off, what are you going to do? You're going to throw over? You throw over, he gets back. That's one. Come set again. You're looking at your peripheral vision off your left eye for a right-handed pitcher, and he looks really off. What am I going to do? If I throw over and I don't get him, that second pickoff is going to be huge. So I throw over again, and I don't get Ohtani. Now I'm up without a paddle. I come set as a right-handed pitcher again, looking at my left eye. Once again, peripheral vision, looking at my left eye. Ohtani's lead is so huge. What do I do? If I throw over, don't get him, it's a balk. I mean, there's going to be freebie stolen bases. I mean, we have no idea if a pitcher throws over twice, how's he going to react now? Is there any chance he's going to throw over with a potential balk, especially if a runner's on third? Think about the strategy here. Think of how big Ricky Henderson's leads were, or Vince Coleman, the great base stealers. Their leads were huge. If there's a runner on third, how many times are you going to throw over? You're not. There's going to be a ton of, basically, I like to always say 90 feet. How do you protect? How do you guard that 90 feet? Because that 90 feet from home to first, first to second, second to third, third to home, how you defend that 90 feet is so crucial. Well, this is going to be part of that now. How are you going to defend that 90 feet? You got runner on third, runner on first and third situation. I got a guy at first base taking a big lead. How many times are you going to throw over? How many times is a pitcher just going to be like, you know what? I don't give a crap. Let him go. I just have a feeling. Check the tape. Mark the tape. What is it? 240. Is it 240? 237 on February 6th. Mark this tape, Cody. I guarantee you hear it here first on A's Cast Live. You will see an explosion of stolen bases. And pitchers are going to give up 90 feet because they're going to be freaked out about throwing over, and the third one's a balk. We're going to see an explosion, and you're going to see so many easy stolen bases that it's going to blow your mind how this changes baseball and brings that athleticism and speed back into the game. Even guys who are not big runners are going to steal that 90 feet. We are going to talk for 6 months about the art of protecting 90 feet. 90 feet. You're going to hear me say it all the time. And it's going to be fascinating to see how pitchers, catchers, the men who are your infield defensive coaches and pitching coaches, how they handle all of this. Because I don't think they know yet. Because until we see pitchers throw over and then they come to their limit and they realize, oh, my God, my third one would be a balk if I don't get them, I think we're going to have teams running like wild, and it's going to be great for baseball. Mark the tape, February 6th, 2:38 now, 2023.
Tape is marked, confirmed. I already did it. I'll give you another guy that's kind of.
Do you think I'm wrong?
No, I think that we are going to see stolen.
How about these relievers? How about the Duvall guy for the Giants who takes like 40 seconds to throw a pitch? How do you think he's going to react as a close? He's got a great arm. I mean,
it's an electric arm, live arm, as they say.
this guy's on. But he's the human rain delay. How do you think he's going to react in a save situation with runners on first and third? What's he going to do? He can't take 40 seconds, and he can only throw over twice. I think these relievers who sit back and just blow it by people and take their time, it's going to change their game. Baseball is going to dramatically change from an entertainment standpoint, and it's going to be great.
Completely agree, because we've been talking about this forever about the Steelers, and we want to see the running A's. Not
and sorry to interrupt you, but I got this in mind. And for all you people, and I do mean you people, who have been like, I don't want to see time in baseball. The great thing about baseball is there is no time. You will all be exposed, because speeding players up and bringing time into the game is going to make the game far more exciting, more watchable. It's going to be great. And then everybody that called me in the post-game show, I can't remember the phone number off the top of my head now. 888, what is it?
I have it. Hold on. I have it. 833-625-2278.
When you're calling me in the post-game show, I can't wait to call you out, some of you loyal callers. I don't want a time. I don't care if the game's 3.5 hours. Wait till you see how the game of baseball changes for the better, and all those you don't care about time takes will not age well.
You're 1,000% correct on that. And people are going to be like, oh, wow, this is so much better. I can't believe I hated the idea of a clock, just like people used to hate the idea of a shot clock and the 3-point line and all the other rule changes, adding expanding teams in the NCAA tournament and the postseason format.
That was a failure. No one watches the tournament anymore. By the way, the minute they expanded the NFL playoffs, people stopped watching the NFL.
Yeah, the ratings are really in the dumps for the NFL. I can't believe the sport's surviving. And quickly, so we mentioned college.
Well, you know what I'm doing on Sunday? Did I tell you what I'm doing on Sunday?
You're watching the big game?
No, I'm going to go for a hike in the Santa Cruz Mountains and get to the top where it overlooks the Pacific Ocean, and I'm going to read a book. You know what? I'm going to read the baseball analytics book by Anthony Castrovince. And yeah, who watches football anymore?
Yeah, it's a dying sport. I don't know how
the NBA expanded. Nobody watches the Warriors.
Yeah, that's true. They're having a tough time right now. By the way, your guy Kyrie got traded yesterday. I know you're really worried about that.
Well, yeah, I was at Pebble Beach, and that came down the pike, as they like to say. And I'm like, wait a minute. Does this just not show you how dysfunctional the NBA is? I mean, does Kyrie getting traded? Remember, I mean, can we go back to Warriors, Cavs, and Kyrie, and everything was LeBron's fault?
Well, yes.
Now, I respect LeBron James. I mean, how do you not? LeBron James is one of the greatest athletes we've ever seen in modern history. He's a specimen. I know people dislike him for some reason. I don't know why. LeBron James, from how he grew up and now helping people and sending kids to college, LeBron James off the court is a salt of the earth type of person. I mean, he is a great role model, example for all people, parents, business people, let alone professional athletes. I'm not a LeBron James guy. I mean, I don't care really. I mean, I just respect the hell out of him for who he is and what he's accomplished in his life, and I think he should be celebrated because he's one of the great ones, not only from an athletic standpoint, but as a person. I mean, LeBron James. I mean, you know how many kids he's sent to college now? I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible what LeBron has done with his stardom and his power. But anyway, I remember covering the Warriors, and everybody was down on LeBron, and it's not Kyrie's fault. Bad takes don't age well. And all the people who backed Kyrie Irving back in the day, how's it looking now, Mr. And I don't, you know what? Him not wanting to get vaccinated, He may be proven. Some people may be proven right long term. I mean, it's vaccinations are scary, right? What do you put in your body and you don't know? We were vaccinated. I'm not saying I'm against vaccinations, but I mean, putting stuff into your body, who knows? But from the not getting vaccinated, can't play. Now he's traded to Dallas. But back in the day, everybody blamed LeBron for Kyrie. That hasn't aged well.
No, not at all. And the trade's still not official. There might be trying to add a third team. I don't know, whatever. But I know you're really concerned about Kyrie.
Oh, and by the way, then what was the other thing? So I'm sorry. I was one with nature yesterday down at Pebble Beach, just enjoying the surf over the rocks and the beauty of the planet in Northern California. I was in my happy zone versus the dysfunctional NBA. Does that mean now Kevin Durant's going to want out?
Oh, good question. Is he coming back to the Warriors?
Well, no. Then now that goes back to the Warriors. Remember when everybody tried to blame certain Warriors for the dysfunction of KD? That it wasn't Kevin Durant's fault; it's Draymond's fault. I'm sticking up for Draymond. Remember that? Everybody, is it Draymond's fault now that it's dysfunctional in New Jersey with Kevin Durant?
No, it's
so maybe Kevin Durant's dysfunction in Oklahoma City, Kevin Durant's dysfunction in Golden State, and now Kevin Durant's dysfunction in New Jersey. Maybe it has something to do with Kevin Durant and not Draymond Green or Russell Westbrook, as they tried to blame that in Oklahoma City. Maybe if dysfunction follows you everywhere you go, maybe it's not everybody else. Maybe it's the man in the mirror.
Very well said. And I want to take us back so we're not talking NBA the whole time, the rest of the show. I'll give you two guys I think could be 40-40 guys. One's Captain Obvious. The other one's kind of under the radar. Captain Obvious is Julio Rodriguez of the Mariners. I think he could.
Whoa. I don't know if it's Captain Obvious. I haven't seen him do either yet.
Well, he 28 homers and 25 steals last year.
That's not 40-40.
But he's one. The other one's Cedric.
Because you know what I would say? Hey, listen, I've seen Yelich and Bellinger look like they do this stuff, and what's happened?
Yeah, true. They've fallen off the map. The other one.
So you're basically you've seen a guy for not even a full season, and you're ready to buy as much stock. You're all in already.
Oh yeah, I'm sold on J-Rod, as they call him up in Seattle. There's always an A-Rod or J-Rod up there. The other one's Cedric Mullins of the Orioles. He was a 30-30 guy 2 seasons ago in 2021. Kind of had a down year last year. He only stole 34 bags last year, but only had 16 home runs. So he could be a guy, maybe if he can get some of that power back, he could maybe get there. He's an very under the radar guy for me. Obviously, I'm not going to go out and go, well, Ohtani could do it. No, I'm going to look at guys that aren't so obvious. The other one people keep really, really hyping up is I keep seeing everyone talking about Bobby Witt Jr. of the Royals being a 40-40 guy. Let's let him play a full season before we say 40-40 for him.
Yeah, and I'd probably be more worried about the 40 dingers than the 40 stolen bases.
Yeah, that's
healthy.
That's a very good
what though? I don't. I think Ohtani's interesting because Ohtani supposedly has the governors on him, like in NASCAR where they keep the engines from going so fast.
Yeah.
That's where Ohtani. Can Ohtani just be loose and be allowed to play the way he wants to play? And if that's the case, clearly he could get to 40-40. If you allowed Ohtani, but the problem is he's a pitcher. If Ohtani wasn't a pitcher, if Ohtani was just a hitter, would you say no question 40-40?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's the pitching part. So I think Ohtani is one of the most interesting. What about Ronald Acuna Jr.? I think Ohtani is the most fascinating of any 40-40 candidate because of the pitching aspect.
Yeah, and the only guy, those are the two guys that have come the closest over the last couple years. Acuna was a 41-37 guy, so
who is Ronald Acuna Jr.?
He needs to stay healthy. He's like Nando. He needs to stay healthy and on the field. Here's a guy, because we teased this earlier and we can finally pay it off. How many times has Hank Aaron been a 30-30 guy in his career?
A bazillion.
The answer is one time the great Henry Aaron was a 30-30 guy. It was where were you at in 1963 when he hit 44 home runs and stole 31 bases?
Yeah, I apologize. I thought it would have been a lot, but I wanted to. We talked about Henry Aaron's birthday was yesterday. So there's 13 stats that they've put out there that show Henry Aaron There's never been anyone like him. I said with a lot of guys. But there's one stat that, to me, tells you everything you need to know why you if you're going to tell me somebody's better than Henry Aaron, you better bring a resume and a lot. We'll give you here's an easy one before I get to the crazy stat. Henry Aaron is top 5 in a lot of categories, but here are the main ones. He's 3rd all-time in hits, 4th in runs scored, 1st in total bases, 1st in extra bases, 1st in RBIs, 4th in intentional walks, 5th in WAR by position players. He's one of 7 players who have reached 3,000 hits, 500 home runs. And oh, by the way, they didn't even put in this top 5, he's 2nd in dingers. Think about all those categories. Nobody else is with him. When you talk total bases, home runs, hits, run score, nobody. Now, there'll be someone like Ricky Henderson right here who's up there in runs and he's up there in stolen bases. But Ricky's not. Ricky up there in extra base hits and RBIs, intentional walks. I mean, Henry Aaron is up there in every single major category. But here's the one that blows my mind and should blow your mind. Henry Aaron hits 755 home runs. Should be the most all time.
I think I knew you were going to go with this one.
Henry Aaron, if you take those 755 home runs away, if Henry Aaron had no home runs, think about this. Henry Aaron, 755, delete. He still has 3,000 hits. 3,000 hits without his 755 home runs. It's the most amazing stat I think I've ever seen in baseball. Only Pete Rose and Ty Cobb have more hits. He's 3rd all-time in hits. You take away his 755 home runs, he still has 3,000 hits. He's a first-ballot Hall of Famer. So you guys want to shove Ichiro or Tony Gwynn or these guys with their singles? This guy's got 3,000 hits without home runs, and then you add his 755 home runs with it. He makes Ichiro, Gwynn, Boggs, all these guys look like chumps.
I was just going to say, if you take away the home runs, he still has 3,016 career hits, which is 30th all time. That's 6 ahead of Hall of Famer Wade Boggs, who had 3,010 career hits.
Think about that. You take away his home runs, he still has 3,000 hits. And we talk about 3,000. Oh, Biggio and Jeter and all these guys who get, we just had, what's his name? Beltre got 3,000 hits, and we applaud. Ricky got 3,000 hits, and Gwynn and all these Boggs, 3,000 hits. Henry Aaron had 755 home runs and 3,000 hits to go with it. You take away his home runs, he still has 3,000 hits. That dwarfs those guys' careers, and we think of those guys as greatness.
Yeah, 3,016 to be exact. If you take away the 755, more than Wade Boggs. Those numbers are crazy. We did the total bases the other day where I said what his total base number is, and Albert Pujols is 2nd, and Hembo had the stat if he homered in 161 consecutive times, 161 consecutive bats, he'd still be 2nd all time to Henry Aaron's total base number. That's incredible. But the 3,000 hits with the 755 home runs is, I knew you were going to go there this one because I think that's the best one on there.
I've never heard anything like it. I mean, if we go down the list of players, I'll do it right now. Cover me for a second.
Yeah, another good one on there too is the 20 straight years of 20 or more home runs. Think about that. 20 years in a row, Hank Aaron hit 20 or more home runs in a season. There's a reason why he has 755 home runs. But that one was good. He's 116th in total strikeouts. That's also very good. He was a 25-time All-Star, but he only played 23 seasons. I'm sure there's a good explanation to that. I just don't know it off the top of my head.
Well, they used to play 2 All-Star. You didn't know this? They used to play 2 All-Star games a year.
I forgot about that.
Okay, so just look at this, right? How we just go, oh my God, Derek Jeter, Carl Yastrzemski, Pujols, Molitor, Mays, Murray, Cal Ripken, Beltre, George Brett, Robin Yount, Tony Gwynn, A-Rod, all these guys. They got 3,000 hits. And they all had great careers. Look at Ricky Henderson. Ricky Henderson played forever. He had 3,055. 3,055. We sit here and we talk about Ricky, and Ricky was greatness, yes. But take the difference between Henry Aaron and Ricky Henderson. Ricky Henderson had to play forever to get 3,055. You take away Hank Aaron's home runs, he almost has as many hits as Ricky Henderson. And Ricky Henderson played what? 23, 24 years?
Yeah, with how many teams was it? 8, 9? I forget how many was.
I mean, it's crazy. Rod Carew is considered one of the greatest base hit contact hitters of all time. He almost has as many hits as Rod Carew if you take away his home runs. I mean, that just tells you how just insane this number is of how good Hank Aaron was.
Okay, so we came up and said that Henry Aaron would have 3,016 career hits without the 755 home runs. How many hits would Barry Bonds have if you take away the 762?
Would he be below 2,000?
2,173.
I mean, what if we took away Willie Mays's? So I'm looking at Willie Mays. Willie Mays, obviously, Willie Mays could be considered the greatest all-around player, like him or Mickey Mantle, or there's certain guys. Trout's pretty damn good. We'll see what he ends up with. Bonds. Willie Mays ended with 3,293 hits. Willie Mays had what, 660 home runs?
Yeah, it'd be 2,633.
He's look at all these guys. You take away their home runs, they're out of the 3,000 club. Below Willie Mays is the great Eddie Murray, who is one of the great switch hitters of all time. Eddie Murray had over 500 home runs. I know that off the top of my head. He had 3,255. He gone. Cal Ripken, 3,184. I know he had over 400 home runs. He's out. George Brett, 3,154 hits. He had 300 and something home runs. He's out. All these guys are out of the 3,000 hit club. You take their home runs away.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like
maybe the only guy that how many did Tony Gwynn end up hitting in his career?
Doing it right now. He had 135 career home runs. So if you take away from his 3,141, he's still at 3,000 hits.
Tony Gwynn may be the only guy. Oh, wait, what did Ichiro have? Well, Ichiro had to have 89 home runs.
I'm looking right now. Tony Gwynn would have 3,006. Ichiro had 3,089 career hits minus he had 117 homers. So he's at 2,972.
So let me back up the truck here, and the guy that I grew up watching, Tony Gwynn. Let me take it back. Tony Gwynn would be the only Hall of Famer and the only member of the 3,000 hit club that if you took his home runs away, he'd still be a 3. That's pretty impressive. Remember that thing I sent you, folks? There's this amazing stat about Tony Gwynn hitting with 2 strikes.
Oh yeah, I don't remember exactly what it is, but
yeah, it's something with 2 strikes. Tony Gwynn is the only player in baseball history to have over a 300 batting average with 2 strikes. It was crazy. There's like no one even close. As a pure not hitting it out of the ballpark, as just a pure hitter, it's really hard to go against Tony Gwynn. Even for the guys that you would compare him to get, you would compare Tony Gwynn with like Wade Boggs and Rod Carew and these type guys. Tony Gwynn, there's these numbers about his ability to make contact, not strike out, and put the ball in play and get base hits. That it's such at a crazy rate that, I mean, you look at his all-time batting average, modern day guys don't even sniff it. Like looking at the modern day great players, so Pete Rose's career average was 303. I'm still looking at modern day guy. Jeter was 310. Yaz was 285. These are all guys in the 3,000 hit club who are modern day guys. Molitor 306. Willie Mays was 301. Eddie Murray 287. Cal Ripken was 276. Beltre 286. George Brett 305. Robin Yount 285. Just going down. What was Ichiro? Ichiro was 311. Gwynn was 338.
It's pretty good.
Like no modern day player's career average. The Gwynn ranks with the old crazy guys. Like the old guys where their numbers are like, I can't believe it. Gwynn rates with those guys.
You mean like Hannes Wagner, who had 3,420?
The fact that you take away Gwynn's home runs and he's still a 3,000 hit guy, I got to find that stat for people. It's pretty I mean, look at Ricky Henderson. Ricky Henderson's not even a 300 career average, which is not saying he's not great. Yeah, Ricky Henderson is 279. I mean, Gwynn was 338. It's crazy.
Yeah,
he had a skill. And I'm not saying his skill was the best because I still rather have a guy who hits home runs and drives in runs and hits for somewhat of an average. But Tony Gwynn's numbers are pretty insane. But nothing's like Henry Aaron. There's just nothing like offensively like Henry Aaron for a career. You just no one compares. And if you want to compare them, those guys were on PEDs.
Yeah, like the one guy that's, I mean, this is an old time, like an old era. I don't even know what era we throw him under, just the 1900s era. Early night. Hannes Wagner had 3,420 career hits. He only had 101 career homers. But that's a guy that played, 120 years ago. But the modern day guys, you're right. I mean, no one's close to what Henry Aaron has done. Well, the 3,000 hits without the 755 home runs for a guy that wasn't even, what was it? The thing with him, he was the way he swung the bat, where he had to fix his swing. Didn't he swing awkwardly, or he was the way he batted? Remember, there was something wrong with his swing.
No, Henry Aaron. There was a. It's a different style because Roberto Clemente was like this too. They were front foot hitters.
That's what it was. Okay.
They use their, which we don't teach now, but they kind of lunge forward and their base, it's hard to explain, but their base was, I got to look at myself, make sure I'm explaining this right. Their base was when that left foot hit the ground, that was their base that they turned around. They were all hands, strong hands, hands back, and everything was off. We don't teach guys to come forward and be off their front foot anymore. You would never teach that. You wouldn't teach it. It's like even like an old school golf. I mean, but their base was off their left side, and everything was turning off their left side. And he had such strong hands, as Ray Fosse told us. You could hear his bat through the zone. It was so fast. Henry Aaron bat. I'm getting this. Mays was better all around player. Willie Mays, but there's nothing offensively that you could. And I know they talk about Candlestick. I'm telling you, Candlestick did not matter whether you got hits or not. Made it hurt home runs, didn't hurt hits. And they may say it with the win, but the hits, the Henry Aaron hits are just there. Yes, Willie Mays defensively playing center field. I got you, whoever this Dennis Randolph is. But I'm telling you, the numbers speak for itself with Henry Aaron. No one's numbers are even close. They're not even close.
I looked it up because I knew I saw something. He was a cross-handed hitter with Henry Aaron. That's the one that I knew there was something with the way he was. Something about the way he swung the bat that was unorthodox.
I don't know if that was full time though. That was when he first came up.
Yeah, then he ended up switching it. But I remember like he started out as a cross-handed hitter.
Yeah, the big thing was if you go look at videos, how he came forward, landed on his left, and everything turned around his left side, kept his hands back. He had tremendously strong hands. And Clemente was the same way. They really hit off their front foot, which you'd never teach today. But I mean, the numbers for Henry Aaron are just, they're mind-blowing. They're literally like, wow, that guys took PEDs and couldn't get to his numbers.
Here's two more for you on Henry Aaron. 15 straight years of having a 6 or better WAR. That's wins above replacement. He had a 1,116 career postseason OPS. Is that any good?
Huh? Say that again.
His career postseason OPS 1,000. It was actually 1,116. Is that any good? So 1.11. That's
he tore up the Yankees. What year was it? Like 56 or 57 with the Milwaukee Braves. Just ripped up the Yankees in the World Series.
Yeah, let me pull up his postseason numbers.
I want to say somewhere in the 50s. It's like 56 or 57, something like that.
Well, yes, it was 2000. It was 1957.
Yeah.
He hit 393. He hit a 1,020 OPS. Then the next year he hit 333 and had an 827 OPS. And then the next time he played in the playoffs, 1969 to 835, he had a 1,500 OPS.
Can you imagine? Give me those numbers again against the Yankees in the World Series in 1957.
57, he had in 28 at bats, he hit 3 home runs, drove in 7 runs, hit 393 and had a 1,200 OPS, a 1.2.
Can you imagine can you imagine in last year, Yankees, Milwaukee Braves? I know they're in Atlanta now, but if it was the Yankees and the Milwaukee Braves and Henry Aaron put up those numbers against the Yankees in the World Series, what people would be saying?
Social media would be on fire.
I mean, it would be like, oh, it's the big bad Yankees against this little Milwaukee Braves. And Henry Aaron kicks the crap out of them on national television. Can you imagine what people would have been saying then?
It wouldn't have been kind to the Yankees. Now I'm kind of curious, like who were some of the pitchers on the Yankees staff? I know Whitey Ford was there, of course.
But just think of what how sports is covered now. If someone in a big series did something like that, especially against the Yankees, what that would do. I mean, can you imagine if Henry Aaron put these numbers up and he played in New York or Boston or somewhere like that and not Milwaukee and Atlanta?
Yeah, it'd be a completely different conversation. And we still, like we talk about, you can argue he's the greatest offensive player of all time, and because of all the stats he had.
I don't know how you argue against him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think
what are you going to bring? What are you going to bring that's going to say you could have, as we talk about with the Hall of Fame, give me a 7-year period, 8-year period. I don't know. You could probably do that, especially with Bonds. You could probably have a period of the PEDs that was so insane. But for the totality of a career, I don't know how you can find somebody for over 20 years that can match that type of production.
I'm going to see if I can find the highest WAR 7 leaders real quick. Well, see if I can find that.
Well, Ruth's number 1.
I don't know. I mean, that's kind of going on a limb here, saying that.
It's funny. You read this book and it goes through analytics, and supposedly we have the analytics to prove that those old guys like Babe Ruth and they didn't. Who's the number 1 WAR and who's the number 1 OPS all time?
That'd be Babe Ruth.
Yeah. All right. Just checking for all the people that said Babe Ruth. Oh, Babe Ruth, this, Babe Ruth. Numbers are the numbers. I mean, that would be the only guy. I mean, Ruth's numbers are insane, but obviously it's, you got to give everybody their due when they play. It's like this argument that's been going around about Tom Brady. Yes, Tom Brady's greatness. There's no question. But you have to realize playing quarterback in the 80s, the 70s, even going back 60s, it's different. Like, how do you compare basketball? How are you, to be a truly all-time great in basketball, if you really want to do it, you'd have to be somebody who could play before the three-point line and after the three-point line. Do you have the kind of game that would translate in both games? Would you have the type of game to be able to translate a playing quarterback in an era when they get to kick your ass every single game? Could you withstand that physically? Could you call your own plays? I mean, it's a different game. Like if we had a draft in the NBA and said, listen, I've got to build an NBA all-time great NBA team, and the guys got to be able to play when physicality was the name of the game. And I'll just say, I can't say I was big on early 70s and 60s basketball. I just know being in the 80s was a much more physical time. When you're playing in the East with the Celtics and the Pistons and the Sixers, all right, Could you play in a game that was super physical? And of course, the 3-point line was, but I'm saying like no 3-point line, super physical, but then you got to be able to play. And now, which is so athletic, and a 3-point line and 3-pointers. Could you play in both eras? How many players could? And if you had a draft, who would you draft? Because you got to be able to play by both rules. I know one guy that I think would get drafted for both teams.
A couple came to my head, but I don't know if we both agree on them. Is one of yours Michael Jordan?
I think MJ would be in the draft.
I think Larry Bird would be in there.
I think Larry Bird would be. I think LeBron could be in there. I think Kareem could be in there. But
Kareem.
yeah, I think yeah. See, that's the thing. Bird played in both eras, right? So, yeah, I think MJ's going to be on the team.
Yeah. And
hey, what do we got? What is today's Monday? So we're back Wednesday.
We're back Wednesday. Yeah.
Before you know it, we're going to be in Arizona. Things are happening fast.
Yeah, we'll be in Arizona next week from. Wait, what's today? No, 2 weeks from now. One thing we'll get into on Wednesday is the Athletics MLB wildcard era franchise rankings and where the A's, because they did the wildcard era and broke them down. Spoiler: we're not in the bottom half of the league, so that's something we can get into.
You know what though? It's unfortunate, but I don't know how much our fans, and yes, we will get into it. I don't know how much our fan base appreciates it because of just the craziness of the A's, which is one of the things I actually love working for the A's. It makes us very unique. But how many times have people said, yeah, but? Well, look how many times you've been in the playoffs since Billy Beane. Yeah, but we haven't won the World Series. There's a lot of yeah, buts. But if you look at success of this team since it moved to Oakland in 1968, you look at playoff appearances, it's pretty incredible. They're one of the tops in baseball. But you'll get the yeah, buts. Well, but what if the 70s team stay together? And what about this? And what about that? There's always the yeah, buts. So I don't know how many people will really sit back and appreciate us bringing up the list going, in modern times, A's have no question been one of the better teams in Major League Baseball. The data says it.
And we're looking at the wild card era. So is that 95 and on, right?
94.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's one of those years. So you're looking at from the mid-90s to now where the A's rank. Spoiler, the Pirates are dead last because they only made 3 postseason runs. It was 13, 14, 15. So the Pirates are dead last. So there's that.
94 was the strike, but for some reason they always
I think it's 95 was the first year of the wild card era.
But yeah, I think they always reference it.
Oh. Well, that was interesting. But yeah, the wild card era is actually 1995 to present, and not the 30-team era, which was 98 to present, but the 30-team era, according to the Athletic, isn't a real era. And because post-strike simply is a more logical starting point. So you're looking at 1995 on. Obviously, we know the Yankees are going to be ranked number 1 because of what they've been able to do with the multiple 5 World Series titles they won since 95. So they're going to be up there, and they've been in the playoffs literally like every year. Derek Jeter never missed a postseason. It's a fascinating piece on The Athletic. Stephen Nesbitt wrote it. He used to cover the Pirates in Pittsburgh, but he wrote it for The Athletic. It's an interesting article to check out, and it's something we'll definitely get into on Wednesday. But that's going to do it for A's Cast Live today. I want to thank Martín Gallegos for joining us and Anthony Castrovince of MLB.com. We'll be back Wednesday at 1:00 right here for A's Cast Live.
It's that time of the year. Single game tickets are now on sale for the 2020